On to the Florida Gators going to College Station. It's an 11 o'clock game on ESPN. The A&M is a 3-point favorite. There's some rumors about Connor Weigman's health. He looked very good against Ole Miss. That line kind of may be a mirage, but Florida doesn't have Brenton Cox, and other starters are out. So this is kind of the hot mess bowl for two programs at the moment. Boss man, would you take it a situation with Haynes King starting, or this Florida mess that's going on right now? This is just a weird game.
It is a weird game. It's kind of a coin flip. It's kind of whoever shows up. When I was looking at this game and prepping for the show a little bit, to me, if Connor Weigman starts for A&M, I'm taking A&M. I think A&M is generally the better team, even though they're 3-5. It's crazy to say that. But in those games that they've lost, they've been right there, kind of like Mizzou. They're within 7 points, within a touchdown, something like that, and right there just cannot get over the hump. With Connor Weigman, I think that they found their quarterback. I think that four touchdowns, 0 interceptions last week against a top 10 Ole Miss team. And actually had the offense of A&M with a little bit more tempo and actually looked like they had a little bit of rhythm for the first time really all year. So I think if Connor Weigman plays, A&M gets the win here. If Haynes King plays, all bets are off, and we'll see what happens. That's not to say I think Haynes King is really a bad quarterback. I just think that A&M has a different tempo. I think that they go to another level with Connor Weigman back there. And I think that they've got a better chance to win with him behind center.
Yeah, Hammer almost ran for 390 yards last week, and Quinshon Judkins an absolute monster. One thing Florida can do, they have a very mobile quarterback. Their running backs are quite good. They're probably going to try and replicate what Ole Miss did last week. What is Texas A&M's fix?
Man, I wish we knew. We've been wondering that all year. I think for starters, they got to get out of that 3-man front. They didn't run it a ton against Ole Miss, but I do remember when they would come out in the 3-man front, Ole Miss picked up on it and they wouldn't sub. So A&M was sort of stuck in it, and then Ole Miss would run tempo and really made it tough on A&M's defense. I think when I was working on our preview for biscuitsandSEC.com on this one, I set, the old baseball term, the Mendoza line, right? If you hit over, 200 batting average was the Mendoza line. I think that's kind of the line in this game because A&M's run defense has been leaky. So has Florida's. Whoever can get over 200 yards on the ground, I think will win because – especially if Weigman is out, we know A&M's passing game is not going to be very lethal. Florida's, with Anthony Richardson, continues to be very unimpressive. So whatever team runs the ball better here, I think is going to have the upper hand by a considerable amount. So if Devin Achane can get going for A&M, they'll have a really good chance. Now, if A&M cannot figure out how to stop the run and Etienne and those backs and even Richardson can get involved, then Florida could absolutely win this game. So if you're DJ Durkin and A&M's defense, you got to just sell out on the run and make Richardson beat you. Man up on the outside, run a single high, maybe a cover 2 shell if you can really stop the run. But I would roll as many guys down into the box as possible and just dare Richardson to beat you. And if he does, you tip your hat and say, all right, he hadn't done it all year. He did it to us. Nothing we can do. But if they go out and give up 200 or 250 yards on the ground and Florida comes out with a win, then there's really no excuse other than, the defense let the team down. So I really would expect A&M to load the box and sell out, but we'll see.
Boss man, what are some final thoughts and predictions in this game? Is there somebody going to help Devon Achane out? There's no backup right now. It's him, and whenever he gets gassed, production just falls off a cliff because there doesn't seem to be a second running back.
Well, yeah, he should get some help from Jimbo Fisher, who should keep calling his number when he's got the rock and he's rolling. He had, I think, 14 yards in the second half against Ole Miss last week. In the first half, he had over 120 yards rushing. He barely got any carries in that second half. So it's not necessarily that Devon Achane is gas. Absolutely, he does get gas. He needs to get spelled sometimes, and he needs to get some help in the passing game, which last week he got. However, A&M in a game that was fairly close in the second half abandoned the run inexplicably. So I don't think you'll see that happen again this week. I don't think that you will see them abandon the run. They're going to need Devon Achane in order to win this game. I expect it to be really a ground and pound game through and through, especially if Haynes King starts for A&M. I think you're going to see, 40, 50, 55 carries from both Florida and A&M in all likelihood, because neither of these teams can really pass the ball that well. If Connor Weigman is the starter for A&M, I think that changes a little bit. But I see this game going really, as I just said, you're going to have ground and pound. Both these teams are going to try to establish the run. They know that that's really the way that they can win. You're probably going to see a couple of chunk plays through the air. And then the biggest thing to me to watch, and I think this goes for both teams, whether it's Weigman or King starting for A&M, and then Richardson for the Gators. A&M last week got gashed by Jackson Dart. 95 yards rushing for Jackson Dart last week. Many of those came on third downs, which A&M had Ole Miss in third and long situations, and they didn't have a spy on Jackson Dart, or if they did, he got burned. So A&M needs to figure out not only how to stop the run this week, but they also need to figure out how to stop Anthony Richardson, because Anthony Richardson scrambling is much more lethal than Jackson Dart. So if they can't stop that, they don't have a chance in this game. And the same goes for Florida. Florida's defense is a little bit suspect. Teams have been able to establish the run against them. I expect most of it to come from Devon Achane, but Connor Weigman can run a little bit too, and so can Haynes King. Haynes King is supposedly the fastest player on A&M's team, so they're going to have to watch out for that as well. So for me, I'm taking A&M in this game. It's going to be a close game. I believe most of these games get between A&M and Florida in the years that they've played since A&M joined the SEC have been close. A&M still can't really score the ball. Florida's about the same. So I want this one to be in the 20s. I'm expecting something about 28 to, say, 23 A&M wins.
All right, Hammer, drop some knowledge. Give me some final thoughts and a prediction on this game.
Yeah, I'm on the same page here. I think A&M will pull this out. A big reason is it's at home. We saw last week that made a big difference. They played much, much better against Ole Miss a week ago than they had in the prior weeks, really with the exception of Alabama, but that was really aided by the 4 Alabama turnovers, not something you can expect every game. So I think A&M will pull it out. I like Devon Achane to have a big game here. And you're right, though. They do need to find a backup to at least spell him from time to time. There's been a little bit of, depth issues behind him. There's a running back who is still on the roster in LJ Johnson, but has been reportedly missing various practices, not for health reasons. So I don't really know what's going on there. I think the only guy who got carries last week behind Achane was Le'Veon Moss, a freshman. So maybe he's the guy that can spell him a little bit, but I do like Achane to have a big game here. And, again, it's just one of those things. Anthony Richardson in Florida, I just don't trust them to go on the road and execute well enough to win. But I'm kind of on the same page. I think you're looking at this game in the 20s, maybe low 30s, but really whether it's Weigman or Haynes King, or Haynes King, I think the ball or the offense has to run through Achane in this one. Florida's vulnerable in the run game. You've got to give him the ball, regardless of who's at quarterback. So I like A&M to win here. They really, we've been saying it for weeks. They need to start winning some games. I think this team, as beat up as they've been and as many young guys as they're playing, those bowl practices will actually be very impactful. So getting to a bowl game, as silly as that sounds with the expectations that we had coming into the year, would be a very big deal at this point when we're sitting at 3-5. So this is a game they absolutely need to win to get closer to that 6-6 mark or 7-5, whatever they end up as, to get to a bowl game. So I like A&M to win here and pull out a close one.
Yeah, A&M needs to get to 6 wins desperately, and they can't really – you don't see a path to them getting there without winning this football game. So I expect them to come out with their hair on fire. Also, the Arkansas series needs to be home and home. There's no reason Texas A&M should be playing their first home game the week of Halloween. That makes no sense whatsoever. This game is on ESPN 11 in the morning. A&M is a 3-point favorite. The over-under is 56 points. Should be a lot of fun for either the Aggies